Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. There you go. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 805 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Friday, December 5th, 2025, and it is a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. Cold, but lovely. There we go. That should be better for my light, I think. Let's try that. Things are a little weird here this morning here at Kids and Cubs. There we go. Hopefully that'll be better. When I started the show today, I started talking and noticed that I hadn't appeared on screen. And I'm going, ooh, that's not right. And then I realized, the camera didn't switch itself on automatically like it normally does. So I had to do it manually. So that's why you had to wait a little more today. I'm getting better at the tech stuff, and I'm doing my own stunts now. Ha ha! So, as I said, season 5 and episode number 805 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And, well, not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, although I am a little confused because here in the studio, I actually see that his studio camera is logged on, and I just don't know if he forgot to turn it off from last night after he did his grizzly growl, or whether or not he will actually be surprising us with a guest appearance. We don't know. It's a mystery. Ooh, the anticipation is killing me. Well, if he drops in, it will be a pleasant treat. Let's put it that way. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and Cubs, how is your mental health doing today? Mine is doing pretty well, I have to say. Had another good night's sleep. Still a little short for my liking, but good night's sleep. Didn't need the alarm this morning, but only by 20 minutes. That's what I like, actually. To be able to wake up about 20 minutes before the alarm on my own is really ideal. So yeah, for me, that was perfectly okay. Took a couple of minutes to get a little extra snuggle in before waking up this morning because your uh, your beaver needs his snuggles. You know, like my dime fun time, it's an essential part of my day. So I snuck in a couple of extra snuggles and then got up to spend some time with you, damn fam. Um, I hope you're doing really well. The weekend's coming up. It's been an okay week. Definitely looking forward to the weekend. I've earned it. Um, Energy is good. Still not 100% back, which is surprising because, like I said, the second week of shows wasn't as hard on the body. But I guess there might just be a little bit of an accumulation going on. However, did have the chance yesterday to have lunch with my good friend Heather, which is always a wonderful time, wonderful conversation, and that made the day great. Um, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday on the show, but I am so tired that I actually had tickets to a musical on Wednesday night, a local high school production. A friend of mine, son was in it, and I usually go and see whatever he's in. And it was 9:20 at night on Wednesday when I realized that the show was that night and I had missed it. Yeah. So I'm tired. More tired than I thought I was. And I got a text from my friend last night just before bed. Sort of like, so what did you think? I didn't see you there. And it's like, I don't have the heart to tell her I forgot to go. It seems like such a poor excuse. It happened to my Beaver sweetie once. Who was rehearsing for something and he had totally forgot. And when he arrived there the next time, they said, "Why didn't you come?" And he says, "I forgot." Oh, surely you could like make an effort to come up with some better excuse or lie than you just forgot. And it's like, no, I literally just forgot. I forgot it was Wednesday. I just, oh man. So yeah, I'm going to have to find a way to tell her to take the embarrassment hit that I bought the ticket and I live just 3 blocks away, but I forgot to go. Oh well, it happens. So yeah, that's how things are going on in my glamorous life, kids and cubs. I've got tickets to shows that I forget to go to. There you go. Ah, okay. Let's see. What else have we got going on? Let's say hello to the members of the Dam fam. Let's see who we have here today with us in the chat. I see Kit Uncover. I see Kit Bucky. I see Kit Grace. Kit Mayhem is with us. Kit Linda M. Kit Playing with 3D also with us. Kit Hyper T 1234. The Breens are with us. This is again, YouTube is changing the names, so I have no idea who Kit JJINK2K10 is here. Do we have Kit Kat with us? We have Kit Saucy with us today. We have Kit Sue. Hello, nice to see you. It's been a while since I've seen your name in the chat. Welcome back. Who else do we have here today? Going through, things just jumped here. All right, let's see. Let's see. Is that everybody this morning? No. Normally we have a slightly bigger crowd on Fridays. Kit Tavi G is here as well. And I think that's everyone, unless my screen fast forwarded a lot more. No, it wasn't that big a jump. So we got a nice quiet crowd today for our Friday show. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a nice quiet crowd or if you're loud and boisterous, it's still damn fam time. And that's quality time. All right, let's get into the show, kids and cubs. First thing I want to mention, because we probably won't be having a show tomorrow, given that it is Saturday. Saturday, tomorrow, will be 36 years ago on December 6th, 1989, that some man determined that there were too many women studying engineering and decided to go into a classroom, tell all the men to leave, and then execute the women who were remaining. So tomorrow we will have a moment to remember um, the lives lost in the Polytechnique massacre. And some good news about this from Siddhartha Banerjee, actually from the Canadian Press. Polytechnique Montréal is expanding its scholarship program honoring the 14 women who were killed at the engineering school 36 years ago. The Order of the White Rose Scholarship was established in 2014 and had previously been awarded to one female engineering student in Canada per year. This year, new donors have stepped up to fund 14 scholarships valued at $50,000 each for female students to pursue an engineering master's or doctoral degree in Canada or elsewhere. The scholarship set up to pay tribute not only to the victims but also to their families and the others injured on December 6, 1989, were awarded during the ceremony at the school on Monday. Quote, we achieved it this year and we'll need more donors to join us because we've secured 14 grants, but 4 are only funded for this year, Maud Cohen, president of Polytechnique Montréal, said in an interview. Quote, we hope to be able to continue this mission and award scholarships over time. When you see the impact it has, it's truly extraordinary. On that December day, 36 years ago, a man motivated by hatred of feminists shot and killed 14 women and injured 13 other people at the engineering school affiliated with the Université de Montréal. White roses and ribbons have become the symbol commemorating the victims. Scholarship recipients for the 11th edition of the program include students enrolled at universities in Quebec, Alberta, Ontario, and British Columbia. Quote, what these scholarships do is allow them to accomplish what they want to do, to go further in the execution of their dreams, to flourish in an environment that, at the time in 1989, was perhaps not as welcoming, Cohen said. One of the recipients, Angéline Lafleur, completed a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering and Physics at the University of Ottawa and is pursuing a PhD at the University of Waterloo in Electrical and Computer Engineering, specializing in quantum technologies. Lafleur, 23, doesn't remember when she first heard about the 1989 shooting known as the Montreal Massacre. The child of 2 engineers, she grew up in a supportive environment where there were no qualms about a young woman being interested in engineering. When her parents told her about the tragedy, she said it made her realize the negative attitudes that some people had at the time toward women in the sciences. Sorry. Quote, it was very difficult to hear, just the number of women, all different ages, their different dreams, and how all that was robbed from them, Lafleur said. So it's been on my heart as I pursued engineering, and I always remember this event, and I'm just grateful of how far we've come. Lafleur said Monday she is, quote, still riding on the high of meeting the 13 other recipients, hearing their stories, and interacting with previous winners, donors, and Polytechnic staff. Amid reflection and commemoration, Lafleur said she found a positive energy celebrating the progress that has come since the shooting. Quote, we live on the dreams of the 14 women who couldn't, Lafleur said. It's just been amazing to see the work of people in Montreal and across Canada to not forget and to learn from that tragedy. Cohen said the number of women in engineering continues to improve. In 1989, women made up roughly 11% of the Polytechnic student body. Now the percentage of women in the bachelor program is almost 32%. For all of Quebec, the percentage of women in engineering programs has grown from about 7 or 8% to 16% over the same period, she added. Cohen said Polytechnic does a lot of recruitment at a very young age, visiting schools to discuss science and engineering and providing funds for students to attend science-focused day camps. So there you go, kits and cubs. Some good news. Some good news coming from very tragic incidents back in the day. In order, with regard to this, sorry, I'm just a little emotional right now. The students at the time whose lives were tragically taken away, we remember them. Geneviève Bergeron, who was a mechanical engineering student. Hélène Colgan, who was a mechanical engineering student. Nathalie Croteau, who was a mechanical engineering student. All three were mechanical engineering students. Barbara Daigneault, mechanical engineering student. Anne-Marie Edward, who was a chemical engineering student. Maud Haviernik, who was a metallurgical engineering student. Barbara Kluznik Wydajewicz, who was a nursing student. Maryse Lagagnère, who was an employee of the finance department. Maryse Leclerc, who was a metallurgical engineering student. Anne-Marie Lemay, who was a mechanical engineering student. Sonia Pelletier, who was a mechanical engineering student. Michel Richard, who was a metallurgical engineering student. Annie Saint-Arnaud, who was a mechanical engineering student. And Annie Turcotte, who was a metallurgical engineering student. And everyone was in between the ages of 20 and 31 years old. So yeah, it's good to know that all these years later, we are indeed still remembering. And like I said, with that scholarship program being boosted from 1 scholarship per year to 14 scholarships per year, and hopefully they'll be able to continue that every year henceforth because they will get the funding. That good comes out of it all these years later. All right, moving on to our next subject, kits and cubs. And it is the big news. We're talking about it a little bit yesterday. Things finally came to a head in British Columbia with the leader of the party, of the BC Conservative Party, John Rustad, finally taking the hint and stepping down or stepping aside as leader of the party. According to no, not according to that, because that is not a full story. That is just little blips. So let's look at this here, the Globe and Mail. That'll probably give us a better description of what happened here. And my computer is again being really weird. There we go. And let's do that. According to Justine Hunter from the Globe and Mail, BC Conservative Party leader John Rustad has resigned a day after more than half of his caucus sought to force him out. The interim leader of BC's official opposition is now MLA Trevor Halford, one of the former BC Liberals who was recruited by Mr. Rustad to help build the party before last year's election. Quote, I want to assure every member and supporter of the party that this was not a hostile takeover by BC Liberals, Mr. Rustad said in a statement. Mr. Rustad intends to remain a member of the 39-member Conservative caucus. Party President Aisha Esti, who was part of the efforts to dethrone Mr. Rustad, said in an interview that the party is preparing to launch a leadership race so that it can once again function as an opposition party to the province's new Democratic Party government. Quote, the public should expect a refocusing on the NDP. That was the whole point of this. It's been building a number of months. This internal turmoil was extremely distracting, she said. We felt a change in leadership was necessary. And by the way, that whole um, uh, claim of being politically incapacitated rather than just incapacitated, the basis of that on the party was that more than half of the caucus had written a letter expressing non-confidence, which therefore they interpreted as political incapacitation. And that was their creative way to try to use incapacitation and try to make that fit what was in their party's rules. It didn't, but that's how they tried to make it fit. And I guess even though it didn't work technically, it did work in actuality because the pressure was too much, and Rustad did eventually step aside, especially after saying that he wasn't going anywhere. So this is what we have here. And on John Rustad's Twitter feed, he posted, good morning, my fellow British Columbians. This province, this place we all call home, has given me everything. The right to speak freely, the right to stand for what I believe, the right to fight for a better future for our children, and I have never taken that privilege lightly. Many of you have had strong opinions about my decision to fight for the soul of this party, and I understand that. I had a responsibility to stand my ground. I was an independent MLA removed by the BC Liberals under Kevin Falcon, who refused to stay silent while our province drifted away from the values that built the country. I crossed the floor because I believe British Columbia deserved a real voice, one willing to challenge climate orthodoxy, defend families, and stand up for the people who keep our province working. We fought to rescind the carbon tax because British Columbians deserve fairness, not punishment. We built a movement strong enough to become the official opposition, something many said was impossible. And over the past year, I heard your voices. Every call for change, every call for renewal, every call for courage. I did not hear rejection. I heard a challenge to rise to the moment, to serve this province with even greater resolve. We made changes, we made course corrections, but as events this week have shown, some of those changes came later than they should have. But let me speak from the heart. The fight for British Columbia is far from over. Our land rights are being reshaped without clarity or consent. Crime continues to rise. Families are being crushed under the weight of reckless deficit spending. And whoever leads this party into the next election will almost certainly become the next premier and inherit a province standing at a crossroads. I want to thank my fellow MLAs for standing beside me through every battle. Together, we pushed back against a government that forgot its duty to the people. But this next part is for you, the citizens. But this part is for you, the citizens of this province. Across our history, British Columbians have never backed down from hard choices. We built railways through mountains, industries out of wilderness, and communities out of nothing but grit and belief. And now we face another moment that demands clarity and courage. The media will try to anoint their preferred leader, but that may not align with what ordinary British Columbians need, so I ask you to think carefully about the path ahead. Do you want to return to the party that gave you carbon taxes and silence in the face of Ottawa's overreach? Or do you want a party that will defend your freedoms, protect your prosperity, and put British Columbia and Canada first? That is the choice. And if you want a say in the direction of this province, you need to join the BC Conservatives and vote. Vote for the leader you believe will stand unapologetically for British Columbia's prosperity and for the future our children deserve. I'm asking every British Columbian who loves this province, who believes in its promise, who refuses to surrender to hope, to sign up at, and then puts a link to the membership thing. Get involved. Make your voice impossible to ignore. Hold this party to the same uncompromising standard of accountability that you held me to. And with that, I will be stepping down as leader of the BC Conservatives, placing my trust, as I always have, where it belongs, in the people of this extraordinary province, because I believe in you. I believe in your strength, your resilience, and your unwavering commitment to a stronger, freer British Columbia. The fight for this province has never belonged to one person. It belongs to all of us. And that's what Mr. Rustad had to say about his own about his own resignation here in terms of a public posting. But we also have an interview with him on CPC, it's not CPC, CTV's Power Play. And let's hear from his own words here what it is he has to say.
To resign? Are you going to resign?
No. I am planning to stay on as the Conservative leader of the Conservative Party British Columbia leader. I'm not planning to step aside at this point. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I talked to many of my supporters. I talked to the core people that have been around me, talked to my wife. They all encouraged me to carry on with this fight. But in order to do that would be the creation of a civil war within the Conservative Party British Columbia. And that is not in the interest of this party. It's not in the interest of our members, and I don't think it's the interest of British Columbia.
So a little that was then, and this is now a collage of statements from Rustad the day before, and then yesterday. And now let's look at the segment.
It has been a dramatic 24 hours in BC politics. Conservative leader John Rustad has officially resigned a day after saying he wouldn't be going anywhere. Yesterday, 20 MLAs signed a letter saying they lost confidence in him, and party brass tried to remove him as leader, declaring his leadership, quote, professionally incapacitated. Rustad initially said he would not step down, but has since reversed course, as you just heard, to stave off what he calls a, quote, civil war in the party. MLA Trevor Halford will now lead the party in the interim.
You know, I've known John for over 20 years. When I first came in this building and started as an ALA, assistant, legislative assistant, the word assistant twice in my title, John was there. And John has been a friend, he's been a mentor, and he's gotten us to this place. Yeah. Here. And we have a duty to him, we have a duty to British Columbians to get us to that next chapter.
As for Mr. Rustad, he says he will continue to stay on as an MLA for now, but will not run in the next election. And Mr. Rustad joins us live, I believe, from the BC Legislature right now. Hi there. Good to meet you. Good to have you on the program. Thanks for making the time.
It's good to meet you as well. Thank you for having me on today.
Mr. Rustad, we just heard you explain to British Columbians who were watching that you stepped down today to avoid your party descending into a, quote, civil war. Respectfully, hadn't it already?
No, I think there's a lot of internal squabbling that's been going on. There's lots of issues that have been happening. But when you start, legal battles, when you start a process that could ultimately drive people away and split the party into different factions, I think that is what the risk is here. And, first and foremost, I've always said that being a leader is about standing for what's right, fighting for the average everyday person. And so if I was going to carry on with that fight, I started thinking about it and realized that's actually now about me, not about leadership, not about what's in the best interest of the province or the party. And that's what ultimately led me to the decision to change my position and to resign as leader of the Conservative Party of British Columbia today.
With great respect, Mr. Rustad, why didn't you come to the realization that it would be about you earlier? And I ask because as I look through what's unfolded over the last number of months, I mean, you came so close to winning the election, but since then you lost 5 MLAs, some of whom have said directly that your leadership or lack thereof was a part of why they were leaving. Yes, you got nearly 71% in your leadership review, but less than 20% of members even voted. Fundraising is so low that likely in this fourth quarter you will be out fundraised by the Greens. In October, your party president and 6 other members of the management committee wrote to you asking you to step down. How much better shape would your party be in today if you had made this decision sooner, sir?
Well, that's an interesting question. And, any party that has a leadership change in terms of going through a leadership race faces all kinds of challenges and issues. There are certainly still issues within the Conservative Party of British Columbia that need to be cleaned up. Those are issues that I was trying to work on to get addressed. But unfortunately, we're in a situation where that was becoming impossible to be able to actually fix moving forward. As you know, in politics, there's always people with differing views. There's always different people that want to see their perspective come forward in a party. And the Conservative Party of British Columbia is no different than that. And those became dominant, where what we should have been doing is talking more and more about the issues in British Columbia. The opposition to an oil pipeline, the fact that we've got our forest sector in a crisis, the fact that we've got drugs and crime that are rampant in our streets, a deficit, quite frankly, that's on the road to bankruptcy. These are the things that I have been focused on and talking about, but it's clear to me now that it's going to be impossible to carry on with that type of conversation and fight while the infighting is carrying on within the Conservative Party of British Columbia.
I think you make a good point, Mr. Rustad, in that any democracy functions best when there is a very strong opposition. And so I'll put to you again, what responsibility do you, as leader of the party, bear for the diminishing strength of your party in opposition? And I understand that there are squabbles. There's one MLA who leaves or another. There can be friction. But this was not isolated, right? I mean, you have one MLA who quit your caucus who said that, and quoted you, that if they didn't like his leadership, they can get the F out. Again, Mr. Rustad, with great respect, what responsibility do you bear for the position your party finds itself in today?
Well, let's look at where our party is. We are, according to the latest polls, we're somewhere between 2 and 8 points up in a lead over the NDP. So I would ask, is that a bad position for our party to be in? I would say no. Our party has actually been very effective in holding this government to account. We've been very effective on the issues that matter to British Columbians. They've been fighting these issues. We've been continuing to connect with people around the province. Unfortunately, like I say, when you have this kind of infighting and stuff that's going on, it runs the risk of losing the narrative of the Conservative Party being ready to lead and to fight the next election. And that's what I have to consider first and foremost. But as for holding the government to account, I mean, we've been doing that very well, very effectively. As a matter of fact, we just wrapped up the fall sitting of the legislature here in British Columbia. And, I would say that the governing party, the NDP, have had a very bad time, a very rough time of it this fall.
Do you think, and believe me, I've had multiple opportunities.
So before we continue on here, I would just like to point out here that Mr. Rustad here, while doing a very good job of being diplomatic. Oh, Mr. Grizzly. How are you? Nice to see you.
Working from home today, so.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Thought I'd pop in for a little bit.
All right, I'll just finish my point and then we'll get to you there. Despite being diplomatic in the places where he needs to be, again, really avoiding any answer about personal accountability here, and when he's talking about where he left the party, not in terms of caucus relations or whatnot, but then goes back to the polling and number of seats and whatnot, and the party's in a pretty good position. But clearly the party wasn't in a good position because we've been hearing about this turmoil for months and months and months. I mean, they even got to a point where they were searching people's phones. So clearly that's not a good position to be in. 20 MLAs wrote a letter saying you need to go, and then you stood in front of a mic the day before saying I ain't going anywhere, and then the next day, well, on second thought, I guess I'm going to go. So probably not. The party's not in a good position. Oops, we lost Mr. Grizzly for a second here.
Oh, my software and my camera's updating.
Okay, Perfect.
Got it in a minute.
All right. We'll go back to finish the interview, and so while your camera's updating, and then we'll get back to you, and we'll have a little bit of a chat. Okay.
Another camera over here.
Okay. Well then, all right. So let's finish the interview, and then
Yeah,
we'll
go
get
ahead.
back to you.
Do you think, and believe me, I've had multiple opportunities where I've given really hard interviews to the Premier, so I do take your point on accountability on that side of the legislature. But do you really, Mr. Rustad, think that if you had been leader of the party and headed to an election anytime soon, you could have won? I mean, all the speculation in your province right now is that the Premier is going to head to an election soon because he thinks he can secure a bigger win.
Well, this is the risk now in terms of the step that I've taken. If I had have taken it earlier, I do know for a fact that the Premier was doing all the work to prep for an election this fall. He was hiring additional people to come in. He was working on his teams and strategy. He was approaching people about running as appointments in a snap election. They were doing everything to prep for an election. So if we had been into a leadership race, 2 or 3 months ago, we very well might have been in a position where we would be facing an election. But I think it's highly unlikely at this particular point, especially given the deficit that the NDP is in terms of the polls, where we're sitting in a 2 to 8 point lead. I think it would be very highly unlikely that they will go to election at this particular point. But it certainly was a significant risk this fall, and it's one of the reasons why I needed to stay in place and continue the fight, even with the internal issues that were going on.
But those internal issues have now led to a situation where if your parties were to go to an election, the NDP, I read today, has amassed a war chest of $9 million in assets. Your party is on track to raise only $350,000 in the fourth quarter. Like, how can you argue tonight that you put your party in a relatively better position to fight an election when the math just doesn't add up?
Well, first of all, I don't believe those numbers, and that number was put out, and quite frankly, I think it's a false number. I know exactly where the finances are in the party. I know how much money that we have, and I know what our burn rate is, and I also know the amount of money that was coming in. I know the fundraising that was lined up for the month of December, and I can tell you it would have been significantly higher than the number that you have quoted. So I was not feared, and I'm still not afraid of going to an election. But it's probably worth noting that money is important in an election, but money doesn't win an election. If that was the case, I would expect the Conservative Party, the Fed Conservative Party would have won the last election. They had way more money than the Federal Liberal Party. But money, like I say, doesn't make the difference. It helps, but it is not the only factor in elections.
You're going to stay on as an MLA. I heard you say in your press conference today, but you won't run in the next election. Do you think, there's a lot that went on behind the scenes right up until the last hour yesterday with, a slim majority of your MLAs essentially signing a letter asking you to step aside. Is your presence in caucus going to be divisive?
I don't think so. At least certainly that's my hope. The way I've always worked, I don't hold grudges. I have no hard feelings towards anybody. My role that I see as a former leader of this party, and certainly when I was the leader of this party, is always to do what is right, to fight, to build the party, to make sure I support our caucus, and to make sure that we're as well positioned as we can for the next election. That doesn't change just because I've stepped down as leader. I'm prepared to do the work that caucus would like me to do to be able to support the party. I'm prepared to actually do the work of continuing to strengthen this party and try to build out the membership in this party. And in whatever role and capacity that I need to be there, that's what I will do. And if some people have an issue with me being there, I'll find ways to be able to work through that, listening to their voices and finding out how it can work. But certainly in the conversations I've had with many of the caucus members at this point, they have no issue with me staying on. There may be some that do, but I'm sure we'll work through those issues.
Should your colleagues trust you when you say you'll be able to work through it, particularly since you were not able to as leader?
Well, it's a very different situation when you're the leader because you obviously got all these different views and you're trying to weigh one view over another. As a caucus member, it's a support role. in terms of where the party is going and how we are going after the NDP. I think the error on my part would be, quite frankly, if I were to try to assert myself as being leader or with the ideas, and that's certainly not going to be my intent. My intent is to be able to support our caucus, to be able to support our party, and to carry on with pushing for the issues that are important to me and that I think are important for British Columbia, which is bringing that common sense government, fiscally responsible government in place into British Columbia and winning this next election.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Mr. Rustad, appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
All right, so the extremely energetic and charismatic John Rustad there.
Could he be any more milquetoast?
Oh my God, he's got that Mitch. Some kids were mentioning it in the chat. He's got Mitch McConnell vibes.
Yeah, very much so. Look,
I don't know.
You know what? That's an old school sort of political comportment that
Yeah.
a lot of politicians had for a long time. That was very much what Joe Clark was like.
Yep.
I mean, even there was a time when Brian Mulroney was like that. He eventually got fired up, but he was like that too. And I'm not picking on conservatives. I'm just pointing out simple facts. John Diefenbaker. It's always older, white, conservative males that tend to be like that. And remember, I happen to love Joe Clark. I think he's a very good man. I'm not picking on him. I'm just stating a simple fact.
But the monotone sort of drone like that, say, don't get too excited about anything, just go there. There's a big scandal in your party. Well, I don't really think so. It's like this, and just make everything go away by droning it out and being boring. But Capellos nail him on a couple of things. One of the things that we mentioned on the show, we don't talk about it often, but we do talk about it now and then when it's leadership. Often it's about the fundraising numbers. I'm talking about the NDP raising $9 million and them raising $350,000 under his leadership. When that happens, you gots to go.
Yeah.
When the fundraising dries up, people don't believe in you anymore. And you will notice his conveniently drone on deflect answer on that one. I don't believe those numbers. It's a false number. I know what the numbers are. Of course, he never volunteers them in the answer if he knows them and has it on the top of his fingers. And he's aware of the fundraising that's been aligned for December, but that doesn't mean that fundraising has been realized now, has it, sir?
Well, I don't believe those numbers. Okay, Pierre Poilievre.
Or Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, I don't believe them. Well,
it's a false number. Those numbers are fake news.
I don't care if you believe them. They are facts. You think Vashi's going to come to an interview like that and not have the facts to back it up?
Right.
She's a professional journalist. She's very good at her job. Sometimes I don't like what she has to say, but I always respect the fact that she's prepared.
Yes.
And a professional.
Yes.
So he just came off looking like an idiot there.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I don't believe those numbers. Those are not the real numbers. I know the numbers. Well, then supplement your answer with numbers.
Yeah. Well, I have them in a file somewhere. I'll have to get back to you on that one. And,
oh, God.
It's like the answer is like, thank you for asking that question. That's a very good question. I'm very happy that you asked me that question. That's a very important question that needs to be answered. And I believe that we can answer that question in time when we have a chance to actually answer. Your allotment of time is over.
Yeah,
terribly sorry.
Yeah. But you will notice here again, in that answer to that question, the complete avoidance of responsibility here and accountability, and even just not willing to acknowledge the existence of reality. So you can assume that same attitude transposed to his caucus relations, which led us to getting to the point where the day after he stands in front of the camera and says, "I'm not going anywhere," because well, actually, on second thought, check out my seam.
Not going anywhere. I changed my mind. It's my prerogative to change my mind. I changed my mind. I'm leaving. And you have a nice day.
I don't want to stay in college. I don't want there to be a civil war, so I'm going to have to go. So are you admitting that if there was a civil war, it would be because of you if you stayed? Well, I wouldn't say it that way.
He reminds me of, what was it? Who was that senator? Was he a senator or a congressman who got nailed in a sting operation, soliciting men in a toilet by tapping
Larry
his
Craig.
foot? Yes. Oh, it's not. I'm not gay. I never have been gay. I just have a wide stance.
Yes. And I fully intend to resign 6 months later. Oh, I never actually got around to it, but I did intend to resign.
I intended.
At the time, I sincerely intended it.
Like, what a clown. And I'm not saying Rustad's a clown. Not saying he isn't, but, you know,
Yeah, but at least he doesn't have a wide stance.
he doesn't have a wide stance. But he did remind me of that.
Oh my God.
I have a wide stance. And you know, the funny thing is the way that guy, what was his name again?
Larry Craig.
Larry Craig, right. Now that sounds like a comedian.
Yes.
David, or, you know. But he reminded me of Dr. Evil.
Larry Craig?
Yeah, I'm not gay. I never have been gay. Really? You sound like Dr. Evil. Dr. Evil, of course, was based on what's his name, the guy who runs SNL, Michael. You know, I mean, yeah, Larry Craig. There he is.
Lorne Michael.
Lorne Michaels. Thank you. I wanted to say Michael Lorne, and I knew that was incorrect. Yeah, that Dr. Evil was based on Lorne Michael.
Really?
Well, the voice intonation is mannerisms. Yes, that's very good. Well, it got a laugh, but was it the right kind of laugh?
So there you go, kids, because the end of John Rustad as leader of the BC Conservatives. Good riddance to bad garbage. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well,
live long and prosper, I guess. I don't know.
At least he's not, what is it, 1BC, that party?
Oh, God. That's
oh, my God. That's just a basket of deplorables, those folks.
Yep.
Who's the one MP? She's just a racist pile of human fecal matter.
Yeah. Dallas Brody and Tara Armstrong, both of them together, just like, listen, he lost 5. 2 went to form 1BC, and the other 3 said, you know what? I think we actually prefer to sit as independents. Thank you very much. Than to actually join your mess. You know, there's a problem when 5 of you break away and 2 decide to form your own party. The other 3 go, no, you guys are too crazy for me.
Well, and that's what it was. It's like, no, y'all be too cray-cray.
It's literally, if you check out 1BC's Twitter feed or Dallas Brody's Twitter feed or Tara Armstrong's Twitter feed, it's literally all anti-Indigenous. We don't have bodies yet. Because why are you saying that Canada was stolen? It was never stolen. Anti-trans, and now Tara Armstrong is trying to have a day of commemoration for the convoy.
Yeah, that one killed me. I read that. I'm like, oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So that's all 1BC has contributed, if you can consider that a contribution to society since it existed. British Columbians, you're paying good money for this.
When I read about her day of commemoration for the convoy, the string of expletives that came out of my mouth.
I can imagine.
Dude.
Me was more, there was one expletive when it was like, you gotta fucking be kidding me. And then I laughed my little tail off.
Well, I just thought but here's the thing, I kept it to myself.
Right.
Because her goal is to enrage me.
Right.
Not me personally, she doesn't know me, but, you know, her goal is to enrage us.
Oh yeah, that's rage bait.
Yeah, and I'm not going to play to it. I'm not going to play to it. I'm just going to ignore her and tell the world how much of a horrible fucking human being she is. Sorry for the F-bomb, but she's just a terrible person.
Yeah, let's look. Oh, bless your heart, honey. You want a commemoration day? Bless your heart. I hope the donations are good. Because they're the price of your soul.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. Yikes. But hey, you know, if she thinks that that's what an effective use of tax dollars is and that this is going to get her reelected, more power to her.
I guess.
Some people are just weird, man.
Agreed.
Some people are just weird. All right. Next little bit of news. The Prime Minister is going to find himself, I believe it is in Washington, D.C. today, because today is for sports fans, especially fans of the beautiful game. It's the day in which we're going to find out which pools are going to exist for the next World Cup 2026, Men's World Cup that is taking place in Canada and Mexico and United States, 3 host nations. As a result, for those of you who are really soccer nerds, you know that the host country always goes in. They have 4 pools, 4 pots, or I don't know what, 4 hats, let's say, that they put the names of
Pots,
the
throw the
country in.
pots.
Yeah, pots. And the host country, the highest ranked countries go in the first one, and then the second highest ranked countries go in the second. So, and then they pick one from each pot to make a group so that you can't have, the 3 of the best teams in the same group.
Right.
But the host nation always goes in the first pot with the highest ranked teams. So there are 3 in that first pot.
Yeah.
So and Canada, of all of them, is the lowest ranked team.
I think
So
we're
so it's
ranked
like
above
one,
Australia, but we're still the lowest ranked
yeah.
team in that pod for sure. For
So
sure.
it's like the ninth best teams, and then the United States, Mexico, who are like 13th and 14th, and then Canada, who's 27th. So the 10th, 11th, and 12th teams that would normally be in pot A are now in pot B. So
Well, and let's hope that this summer, when Canada scores a couple of goals, we don't have any commentators from TSN
mhm.
who have gold medal
Mm.
women's national team Olympians on the panel, and he says, "This is the biggest goal scored in Canadian soccer history." There's a gold medal Olympian sitting right beside you, dude.
Yeah.
She's right there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Not just in the room, she's 3 feet away. Like,
Yes. Yeah, that was not a great moment.
no.
So while they are there, of course, all the talk on the news is, will Donald Trump and will Mark Carney talk about trade? Will they talk about trade? Will they talk? They won't be talking about trade.
No.
All right. It's a happy World Cup event, and Donald Trump has been all over this event in terms of personal popularity for himself, and it seems that he's a good friend with Infantino as well. Um,
Of course, because Inventino just
Yeah, you just see him and you think, you think a snuggly teddy bear and lollipops and rainbows. Um, you can tell by my eyes.
yeah, that's exactly where I was thinking.
Ah, so, this is going to be an opportunity for glad handing and backslapping and,
Mm,
aren't we great? And isn't America great? And we're hosting this and isn't everything great, 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 great. And there's not going to be a lot of time for politics. Now,
no.
it appears, the word on the tweet is that Donald Trump and Mark Carney will have a couple of minutes somewhere to be talking about something. Who knows what they're going to talk about that we know of? Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about trade anymore. But also, we heard from the prime minister that it's not like there's no communication between them at all. In fact, they're communicating a lot about a whole bunch of other things, and everything is still cordial. They're just not communicating about trade. I'm not sure that they're going to take this opportunity that's supposed to be about the World Cup and showcasing America and all that type of stuff while they're in America to try and get sidelined with the trade thing. And there's not going to be lots of opportunity for that. However, given that President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, will be there, it seems that Mark Carney will also have some time with her. And I'm sure that she is going to be very happy to talk trade when they have a little moment on it.
Oh, I've no doubt.
Yes. Especially since we're doing more bilateral stuff, it seems. And of course, there's Donald Trump started musing aloud about letting Kuzma expire. We talked about
Right.
that a little bit yesterday. He can't do that in just 1 year anyway. If he wanted to, it expires in 2036 if he's going to do that. But he could keep us in a series of we're going to extend this by 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year until then, and not give us any stability. So I mean, it's not a great thing that he's talking about this, and we're not we're not fully defended against it, but there is. We don't need to start lighting our hair on fire and running around the room and going, "Oh my God, it's starting to panic." But we're doing more bilateral relations with Mexico, and also, given that we're both signatories of the CPTPP, Canada and Mexico, because we have coasts on the Pacific, we have. If Kuzma were to fall apart, we still have a negotiated trade agreement with Mexico of some kind that's brought. We're not going to be adrift and floating at sea.
No, because both Scheinbaum and Carney are on the same page when it comes to, look, we're just going to do this without him.
Right. And Mexico, you have to understand, right, is a fast-growing economy. At
Mhm.
some point, maybe 20 years from now, it's going to surpass ours in terms of size.
Well,
And
there's
it is
200 million people in Mexico or something?
exactly, right? And the United States has about 360. So if we have
Is
much
that
more
big? I
better,
think we're 330.
the 330, yeah, it might be 330, 340,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. So
Because
between,
they're not 300 million more than us. I know that much. So it's probably
oh,
around 330, I think. But yeah, Mexico, I think, is close to 200 million. They were 180 million a bunch of years ago. I think they're closer to 200 now, but I could be wrong.
yeah, estimated population for 2025 is 132 to 134 million
Oh, I was
for
way off.
Mexico.
Wow, I thought it was 180 million.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was,
Huh.
but that's what I got there. And population of the United States, 343.
Okay, so they're 300 million bigger than us. Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Not 10
so,
times, though.
but still, in an emerging economy that's growing and population,
Mhm.
the size of Mexico, increased trade goes a long way to start replacing trade with a nation of 343 million.
Oh, yes.
So, that's more than a third of the way. And
Well, and let's look at those numbers for just a split second when Trump carries on about, "Oh, they're ripping us off.
Mm.
They're ripping us off." No, there's more of you than there are of us, and you want our stuff, and we sell it to you. How is that ripping you off?
I know.
He's just not very intelligent. It's sheer number. For a real estate guy, he doesn't know numbers.
Yep.
It
Yep. No, it is true. True.
like, there's you are 8.2 times our population. Yeah, you're gonna buy more from us than we're gonna buy from you. There's more of you.
Exactly. Yep. Now, in the United States, yesterday, because Trump's been using a loud about that, the U.S. Trade Representative panel has heard from 70 presenters over the past day and a half. And the overwhelming message from these industries is that NAFTA 2 or CUSMA or however
Mhm.
they'll call it, USMCA, is critical to the US economy and needs to be renewed. The big question is, will Donald Trump heed the message? His musings about letting the agreement expire or his trade representative floating the prospect of walking away from it next year might suggest Trump is not listening. Or as some observers have said, perhaps he's using the threat as leverage to get concessions from Canada and Mexico in a renegotiated CUSMA. That seems to be the general consensus, although you can never know with this guy because he's a complete loose wheel.
Well, and the question is, will he even be around next year? And I don't mean because they're going to remove him from office. I mean, his health is deteriorating rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an MRI. What was it for? I don't know. What?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. When you don't know the reason for which you had an MRI, you can't remember. And then at the same time, you talk about your wonderful cognitive abilities.
Oh, I aced it. Which one was it? I don't know, but I aced it.
But I don't remember what I went for an MRI for. But I still remember person, woman, man, camera, TV.
I'm sorry. If I'm going for
Nobody else can do that.
any medical procedure, a blood test, a urine test, a stool sample. I'm sure he's got a lot for them. X-rays, an MRI. I'm going to know what it's being done for, wouldn't you? I mean, my goodness. If they microwave my ankles, they took X-rays. His cankles.
They
took X-rays
my
on me.
ankles. Oh my god. Oh god, I miss you.
Well, I got to give you a laugh,
Oh my god.
I do have to leave in a minute though, because I do have a meeting online in a few minutes. So I got my. Doing some stuff in the studio over the last couple of days, and I'm like, I have to rewire everything. It's just a mess. Because as I would add things and detract things, it's like, oh, there's just stuff everywhere. Like there's just so much stuff everywhere. I'm like, okay, I've got, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras in here in the studio. 4 of them are ready to go at the drop of a hat if I need to use one. If one goes down, I've got several backups. That's in the studio. Then I've got one that's sitting in the window so we can get the outside look at the weather when I feel like it. Then there's all the ones that I keep in my separate kit for the podcasts.
Right.
right? So it's like, okay, but I just got to get all of this cleaned up because I was going to set up my laptop and plug it into my monitors here so I could work from here. I don't have the space. I don't have the space because I've got so much stuff in the studio now. It's like this is just a studio. There's no office here at all. It's just a studio. So it's like, how many mics do I have in here right now? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mics. I gotta rewire and clean up the studio. There's just so much stuff. It's too much. It's since I moved it into this space, almost 2 years ago? It'll be 2 years, I guess, in the spring. It's just like, oh, I got a new piece. I'll just throw that in. Another new piece. I'll just add that in. Oh, here, I'll add this in. And it's like, well, I should keep some cables out in case I need to move stuff. Well, I've got stuff everywhere right now. And it's like, I can't take the clutter anymore. It's too much. So I'll spend some time over the course of the next few days rewiring this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, because I do have to go to a meeting in like 5 minutes. Did you, how amenable are you to the 20th of December?
For a podcast?
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I was about to suggest that to you as well.
Perfect. Because that's the date I can do because I'm in Calgary next weekend.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I'm heading up to see my buddy, and we're going to get some skiing in at Sunshine Village. So
good stuff.
I think we're going to a concert or something too. So we're going to meet up with some friends, and yeah. So I leave next Thursday evening, and I'm back on the Monday. I booked a couple days off work, but yeah. So next weekend's out.
Okay.
Tomorrow is Bridget's birthday, so
happy birthday, Bridget!
That takes priority over everything in my life right now.
Because, yes, indeed.
So yeah, I thought the 20th would be doable. It's just before Christmas. It's a Saturday.
Yep.
So okay, I'll book the space tomorrow because there might be Christmas parties going on.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
But it's Saturday afternoon, so we're probably okay.
Yep, we're probably okay.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to cut out a little bit early, but that's fine. We'll just start a little bit earlier if need be. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, let's pencil that in.
Okay, and by the way, great work this week on the Grizzly Growls with that story that you were bragging us about that treatment center in Saskatchewan. Like, holy crap!
Yeah, disturbing, right?
Really disturbing. I mean, I'm listening to this, and I listened to there was a CBC podcast about it too, and I was listening about it and getting details that way. And it's the thing that strikes me about all of this is just, I mean, like the person died alone, right? Is the utter depravity at play to suck people out of their money, giving them false hope on an illness, ALS, that has no cure.
It's incurable.
And then not even having the decency to at least have someone by their side as they go.
Yeah,
I mean, just the sheer utter depravity, just like literally latched onto a host and just sucked everything out of them. True parasites.
It disturbed me to the nth degree. That's why I wanted to do that story. And I thought, maybe moving forward, that's what the Daily Grizzly Growl will be about, is like a human interest story of that nature. Because you cover politics very, very well every day in the morning, and I do the weekly wrap up at 6 on a Friday. I thought, maybe I'll try and just concentrate on a human interest story that I think needs to be highlighted from a political aspect, because that story needs somebody in political power to do something about it.
Right.
It's like, it's a human interest story, but it revolves around politics, and somebody in the political sphere needs to make the changes so that just does not continue. It can't continue.
Yep.
You're selling false hope to people. There is, it sounds terrible when I say it, but ALS is terminal. There is no coming back from it. Maybe the day will come, like I said, with the advent of CRISPR and AI, we might get there, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So this guy is just selling them false hope. And maybe he has a nugget of an idea. Somebody said that, and I go, yeah, I agree. Maybe there's a nugget of an idea, but he's telling you you're going to walk out of here. He has a 100% success rate.
Exactly.
He does have a success rate in everybody dying that leaves because it's ALS. You do
He's
not
100%
recover.
Successful at getting money.
That's it. Yeah.
100% successful at getting.
No, you don't get better. You do not get better from ALS. You don't.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of his clientele are Americans. And
Yeah.
notice that he charges them US dollar figures.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Could Uncover here is reporting here that the Moose Jaw Police Service is investigating a private wellness center after the Saskatchewan NDP claimed a patient was mistreated. Um, and apparently the Americans might be getting involved in this
Good.
somehow, because there was an American citizen that got caught up in this as well.
Everybody I
Well,
talked
many
to in the
American
story were
citizens, based on what
Americans.
you said.
Yep, they were all Americans in the story that I read from the CBC.
Yeah. So that might have something to do with it here. But yeah, wow. I hope so.
Yeah, something needs to be done. Anyway, I do have to go. I got a meeting in 2 minutes. I will see you later. Take care,
Okay.
folks.
Thank you for
I'll see you
joining
at
us.
6 o'clock. You're welcome. Thanks.
Kit Uncover here says the concerns stem from an American citizen who moved to Moose Jaw to seek help for treating her amyotrophic lateral sclerosis from the Dr. Goodenow Restorative Health Center. Wow. The 70-year-old woman paid the center $84,000 US for its services after receiving a letter from NDP MLA Jared Clark, who shared concerns about potential criminal activity involving the local business. MJPS, can't remember what that stands for, I'm sorry, told CTV that it has begun an investigation. I'm going to actually enter this into my web browser and see if there's a little more out there. This, if Kits and Cubs, if you're listening, Mr. Grizzly has started a new initiative, a daily Grizzly Growl, a very short, less than 30-minute segments, talking about an issue, and he's been doing all week long. It's 4 parts, an issue based on something that the CBC published called "Hard to Swallow." About the story, and according to Jeff Leo here from CBC News, it says here, Saskatchewan Health Minister says his government has asked the organization that regulates doctors and the Treasury Crown, tasked with protecting consumers, to investigate concerns raised in a recent CBC investigation of a controversial health center in Moose Jaw. He made those comments after being questioned by the provincial NDP about that story in the legislature. And that is Saskatchewan Health Minister Jeremy Cockrell who has done that, who has called on 2 regulatory bodies to probe the Dr. Goodenow Restorative Health Center following the investigation. The facility, the Dr. Goodenow Restorative Health Center, has claimed it has a 100% success rate in halting and reversing the progress of ALS, a degenerative disease that causes gradual muscle loss. The center is run by Diane Goodenow, who is not a medical doctor. In a letter sent Thursday to the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Saskatchewan, Deputy Minister of Health Tracy Smith wrote, quote, "The ministry is concerned about this individual and private business engaging in what happens to be the unauthorized practice of medicine." And here, since we have a picture of the charming and kind Diane Goodenow, get a good look at him. That is the face of evil. Right there. Disgusting. Quote, "The ministry is very concerned about the harm this may be causing patients and others in Saskatchewan," Smith wrote. As a result, the ministry wants the college to take all appropriate steps, including opening a formal investigation into the center. In the legislature Tuesday, the deputy leader of the opposition NDP said they were calling on police to investigate the Goodenow Center. Quote, "Today, my colleague for Regina Walsh Acres has written to the Moose Jaw Police Service requesting a formal criminal investigation into the center," said Vicky Moat. That was what the MJPS was, Moose Jaw Police Service. According to an NDP news release, in a formal letter sent to Tuesday, Rural and Remote Health Shadow Minister Jared Clark cited potential fraud, criminal neglect, and failure to provide the necessities of life to Susie Silvestri, a former patient at the Dr. Goodenow Restorative Health Center in Moose Jaw. The NDP and Health Minister are responding to a CBC story from earlier this week about the 70-year-old Silvestri. Last year, the American woman put her North Carolina home up for sale so she could afford to take part in the center's 3-month live-in program, believing that Goodenow supplements would enable her to walk again. During her stay last fall, her health deteriorated. She ended up being forced to flee the province in a rented ambulance with borrowed medical equipment so she could get life-saving surgery in the United States that her insurance company wouldn't pay for in Canada. Silvestri died alone in a Montana hospital on December 26, 2024, just 4 months after paying the Goodenow Center $84,000 US. Susie's situation is reminiscent of the stories shared by other Goodenow clients in an earlier CBC story. Dayan Goodenow, the man who runs the facility, has questioned those reports and filed a lawsuit against CBC claiming its coverage of his program is defamatory. In an email to Goodenow and his company, CBC outlined the concerns raised in the recent story about Susie Silvestri and asked for comment. In reply, Goodenow's lawyer wrote, "No comment, we don't talk to people we are in active litigation against." CBC asked Goodenow for comment about this story, and he has not replied. He did, however, provide a statement to Moose Jaw today. Quote, "Any suggestion that Susie Silvestri's health deteriorated or that she died under our care or as a result of decisions made by my center is incorrect," he told the online news site in a written statement. The health minister has asked the Financial and Consumer Affairs Authority of Saskatchewan to probe concerns about the Goodenow Center. It is a Treasury Crown corporation responsible for protecting consumers in the province. Quote, "Given the fact that dollars changed hands and the concern that the services being offered, I guess, by this private business may not have been accurate to the way that they were represented to the customer, we'll also be directing the Financial and Consumer Affairs Authority to take a look at this specific situation in this specific business," Cockrell told the media in the legislature on Monday. He said that, quote, "On the website for Mr. Goodenow's business, there's a disclaimer at the bottom that talks about a focus on research and other services rather than treating and diagnosing healthcare issues." CBC pointed out that in his brochure promoting the program, Goodenow promises those with degenerative diseases like ALS, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, quote, "biochemical restoration using a systematic protocol of Goodenow's plasmalogen supplements." The brochure also says the Goodenow Center will develop, quote, "fine-tuned individualized treatment plans and a personalized post-treatment plan for clients." That generalized promise was specifically applied to one client with ALS, Rebecca Bader, when she and her husband Eric were looking into the Goodenow program last year. In an email, a Goodenow sales representative said, "To start with the plasmalogens, the process generally involves a consultation to assess her specific needs and to tailor a treatment plan." In a question to Cockrell, CBC highlighted Goodenow's offer for treatment in his literature. Quote, "That's exactly why we've directed the Financial and Consumer Affairs Authority to look into this," says Cockrell. "It's important that the goods and services that you offer to customers should be accurate, and I think the FCAA has a role to play here, and that's why we've directed them to take a look." Cockrell is also asking the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Saskatchewan to look into concerns about the Goodenow Center. The private facility is unregulated and operates outside the provincial healthcare system. It doesn't employ any medical professionals. Dayan Goodenow has a PhD in medical sciences with a focus on psychiatry from the University of Alberta. However, he is not a medical doctor and therefore is not a member of the CPSS. Health Minister Jeremy Cockrell wants the body to investigate the Goodenow Center. CBC's reporting has brought to the forefront certainly more situations. There should be some questions asked and again, that's where we'll make that formal request to the CPSS and have further discussion with them, said Cockrell. In the ministry's letter to the college, it highlights the fact that a non-doctor is not allowed to, 1, treat any disease or ailment by medicine, drugs, or any form of treatment, use any title that would lead the people to infer the person is registered under the Act or is otherwise a physician, use the term doctor or advertise or hold oneself out as such, and 4, pretend to be a physician. Cockrell suggested that the college should look into whether now Goodenow as a non-doctor is violating these or any other provisions of the Act. It is the government's position that the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Saskatchewan has the powers under the Medical Profession Act to mete out any discipline that may be required to this individual, Mr. Speaker, said Cockrell in the legislature Monday under questioning from the provincial NDP. We would encourage the college to do so. CBC asked the college if it will do as the minister has asked, but the organization has not yet responded. In making this request, the province has walked onto what appears to be contentious ground. Following CBC's reporting earlier in the year, Cockrell at the time also suggested the college was the right entity to investigate concerns about the Goodenow Center. Earlier this year, the college said the province was misinformed. Quote, "I disagree that the College of Physicians and Surgeons is the agency designated to prosecute offences that the government of Saskatchewan has adopted into Saskatchewan legislation," Brian Salt, Associate Register and Legal Counsel with the college, wrote on July 21st, 2025. Quote, "There's nothing in the Medical Professional Act of 1981 that supports that view." Salt said in his view, the Act only empowers the college to regulate members and not to investigate alleged offences committed by non-doctors. When CBC told the province about Salt's comments, the government acknowledged there was some confusion on this matter and it promised a review, quote, "to ensure there is clarity on who enforces the Act." The province made that commitment on July 23rd. Under questioning Monday, the minister acknowledged that there is still no clarity. Quote, I think we'll still have some work to do to sort that out with the College of Physicians and Surgeons, says Cockrell. In October 2024, Teresa Sando and her husband Jeff left the Goodenow Center believing he failed to deliver what he promised. The American couple was trying to figure out where to complain. They had been in the Goodenow Center right down the hall from Susie Silvestri. Jeff has ALS and he went to the facility because he was told in a sales call that, quote, we have 100% success rate in stopping the progression and in restoring function of people with ALS. But he says his condition continued to deteriorate while in the program. When asked about that during CBC's investigation earlier this year, Goodenow questioned that claim. Quote, we do document every single person that comes through our center, okay? They leave that center better than they came in, okay? And that's just simply a fact. And then he rushed to proactively present documentation that proved that. No, the article doesn't say that. Teresa reached out to Evan Thompson, a lawyer with the college, to raise her concerns. On November 7th, 2024, he asked for more information in writing. Quote, I am hoping to write a memo for our executive committee that would need to be filled tomorrow morning. So whatever I have for information from you at that point, I will make sure to include for them. She wrote a 9-page summary and forwarded emails and audio files backing up her claims. After a bit more back and forth, the file was turned over to Brian Salt in February 2025 for scheduling reasons. In a February 13th, 2025 email, he told Teresa, quote, we have retained a lawyer with a private law firm to bring an application for an injunction. An injunction is a court order that the person not practice medicine. Salt then asked for additional information. Quote, in order to obtain such an order, I think that we need substantial evidence of the harm that people are experiencing due to Mr. Goodenow's conduct. Evidence that you can provide or that we can obtain through you is likely to be very relevant, Salt wrote. Teresa said she would gather more evidence from other former Goodenow clients. In her final email to the college on March 29, 2025, Teresa wrote, quote, I don't know the timeline for CPSS on the Goodenow case, but if you need anything, you can give me a call. We have several patients and caregivers wanting to report their experience at the Goodenow Center in Moose Jaw. I believe we're up to 11 now. At that point, she said the conversation petered out. She did not hear from Salt again. Now, with the police calling on the college for an investigation, Teresa is once again wondering what happened. Quote, if there is a law, then there is someone assigned to enforce it. How can that be in limbo? She wrote in a text to CBC. Why not the College of Physicians enforce it? They sure acted interested in having me supply them hours of information about Goodenow and the center, and then just ghosted me. CBC asked the college what happened with its investigation of Teresa's concerns. It has not yet replied. This is according to Jeff Leo, a senior investigative journalist at CBC. So if you do have an opportunity, please take some time to listen to Mr. Grizzly's series on this. It's a very, very harrowing situation that's extremely disturbing. All right, kids and cubs, on with the show. So we also, as you know, Steven Guilbeault resigned from the Liberal cabinet as a result of the MOU. We mentioned his appearance on Tout le monde en parle, where he was talking about his experience and his reasons for his reasons for leaving. Oh boy, there was a Freudian slip. Talking about his reasons for leaving. I did it again. And talking, in terms of his position as Minister of Canadian Identity, whether or not he felt, that he might have been abandoning the people for whom he was advocating. And, he had agreed that, yes, he did get a little bit of that feeling. But that there is a mirror test, right? He has to be able to look at himself in the mirror, and he was not able to support this particular endeavor. But he gave an interview again to Power Play with Fashi Cabellos, in which I think it might have been his first interview in English following his resignation, and there. It's very consistent with what he said on Tout le monde en parle, although he's not asked as many questions, if any at all, time as Minister of Cultural Identity. But I think if you have not seen this, that this is something that is really well worth your because he is not going out setting everything on fire and trying to damage his party. But clearly, he has resigned on a point of principle here. And when that happens, it's good to listen to the principle at play.
That's Steven Guilbeault ahead of his first Liberal caucus meeting since quitting cabinet over last week's federal energy agreement with Alberta, a deal that would see the feds waive energy regulations in exchange for negotiating an increased industrial carbon price, all in pursuit of a new bitumen pipeline to the Pacific. Something Mr. Guilbeault said he couldn't back, calling the agreement a, quote, serious mistake. But he has decided to stay in the Liberal caucus, and Mr. Guilbeault is with us live in studio right now. Hi there. Good to see you. Thank you very much for making the time.
My pleasure, Vashi.
Have you had any regrets since your decision?
No, I've not.
Why not?
It's a tough decision. I mean, as a cabinet minister, you have a responsibility to tell your prime minister what you feel is the right thing or the wrong thing to do. And if you disagree with a policy or a decision by the government in our parliamentary system, then as a cabinet minister, your only recourse is to leave. And this is what I did.
So I had read a story, and maybe it was wrong, but it seemed, well placed the night before you quit, essentially saying, a source close to you was saying that you were going to remain in cabinet because you felt you could have more influence essentially over the direction of climate policy or what was to come than outside of cabinet. Less than 24 hours later, you quit. What changed in that period?
I mean, from the first moment I saw a draft of the agreement, the memorandum of understanding between the federal government and Alberta, I voiced my my strong opposition, and I told people, I told those people who were with me that I understood that me opposing this would have some consequences, i.e. me leaving cabinet. And from that day on, Tuesday, Wednesday, tried to work like, are there changes that could be made to the agreement? But by then it was pretty baked in, and the changes that were made were largely cosmetic and didn't change the nature of the agreement. Like I felt, and I feel, we left a lot on the table for not getting a lot in return. I did that we have to abandon our clean electricity regulation that will help us clean up our electricity grid across the country for decades to come. In exchange for Alberta putting a better price on pollution, they already have to do that because of the federal pricing system. So we're not getting anything in return. Alberta's not giving Canadians a better deal out of that. I have supported the Pathways project to capture carbon and store it in the ground for many years, but people have to understand that it's not a magic bullet. It will help reduce pollution from the oil sands sector by about 12%. It's not 50%, certainly not 100%. It's 12%. And 12% is not nothing, but it will still make oil sands one of the most carbon intensive in the world. Like right now, it's about 10 times more pollution intensive than oil that's produced in Newfoundland, for example. So it's going to be slightly better, but it'll be nowhere near what's produced even in other parts of Canada, let alone the North Sea or elsewhere in the world.
The grand bargain and all that you just said, we put to your colleagues, including the person who succeeded you in this position in the days in the wake of your exit, on multiple occasions, in great detail, like how the thesis that they seem to be putting forward is the increase, whatever we're able to negotiate in the form of an increase to the industrial price on carbon, will mitigate the impact of the rollback of these other policies. Is that possible?
I mean, not with the current agreement. To mitigate the losses of measures we're willing to leave on the table in order to get this agreement with Alberta, the price on pollution would have to be almost 3 times as high as what is currently being proposed. So there's an Environment Canada estimates that to get to the same result in terms of reduction of pollution just using industrial carbon pricing and taking clean electricity regulation out of the equation, you'd have to have a price on pollution of about $400 a ton. And we're talking right now about $130 a ton. So I mean, the math doesn't add up. And frankly, I think that my government needs to be honest with Canadians. With the rollbacks that we've seen over the past few months on different climate change measures that have been adopted over the years by me and some of my predecessors, it is impossible to see how we achieve our 2030 targets. And we knew it was going to be difficult. When I was minister, you and I have had this conversation. We knew it was going to be challenging. It's impossible now. And I think we need to come clean. We need to tell Canadians it won't work. We won't get there. And the Prime Minister, he's the Prime Minister. If he wants another strategy, he wants another approach, he can do that. But we also have to tell Canadians what's the new plan and what does that plan lead us to. And right now, even achieving net zero, so carbon neutrality by 2050, it is very hard for me to see how we get there with what has been announced so far.
So you think even that target is in jeopardy now?
Yes. Yes.
Did you convey this at any point to the Prime Minister? Like, was there, not to say that you would disclose all the details, but like, has there been a frank conversation about this between you and the Prime Minister specifically?
Last week, I've had a couple of conversations with the Prime Minister, and they were very honest and frank and respectful. Where I told them many of the things that I'm telling you now, and where eventually I told them that I was no longer the person to be able to help him continue support his agenda on this issue. Now, why stay in caucus? Why stay?
You beat me to the punch, right? Because, and I'll frame the question if you don't mind, because I think a lot of Canadians watching would ask that question. If you don't feel like you can defend, on principle, essentially, you have to resign from cabinet because of the agenda that they're pursuing. How can you stay in the government? Period.
Well, I have a profound disagreement with the Prime Minister on how he and his team want to continue moving forward on climate change. And as I said, I don't see the plan. I don't see the math right now. And maybe they can prove me wrong in the coming months. That being said, I still think that the best person to serve Canadians, to help us, to get us through those times we're going through, is Mark Carney. Without Prime Minister Carney, we would not have had the historic investment in the arts and culture that was in the last budget. We certainly wouldn't have measures that are continue to support Canadians, like childcare, like dental care. The Conservative Party of Canada have said time and time again that they would get rid of those measures. These measures are helping people, like thousands of dollars back in the pockets of Canadians. So
why do something, pardon the interruption, why do something so politically damaging to the Prime Minister in removing yourself from cabinet? Why not stay around the table and fight for the things that you're describing tonight?
I mean, I've tried to do that with as much tact as I could. I didn't leave the room throwing grenades around and accusing people of this and that. I think I've been very respectful of the Prime Minister and the government, but I felt that I owed it to him, to my colleagues, and to my constituent to be true to myself. And to be able to look myself in the mirror. Like, I don't know, Vashi, how I would have been able to say with a straight face that this is an agreement that I can support. Now, I support the Prime Minister's intention of making sure that all Canadians feel they have a place in the Federation, but we played in that movie before. We bought a pipeline. We announced that before the 2019 election, and we lost all our seats in Alberta and Saskatchewan in the 2019 election.
But maybe because it wasn't about the seats, like, how is it okay to buy that pipeline but not build another one? Like, you stood by that Prime Minister then.
Actually, I never supported that pipeline.
You didn't, but you still stayed in cabinet.
No, I wasn't in cabinet when that decision was made. And when I ran in 2019, I specifically said that I disagreed with the pipeline, but I agreed with many of the other things that the Prime Minister of the time, Prime Minister Trudeau, was doing, specifically on climate change and nature. And as you know, politics is about compromise. In a country of 40 million people, you're not going to win all your battles, but at some point you have to draw a line in the sand and say this is a place where I can't go, and respectfully say that I have to leave cabinet.
Do you think that you can remain in like you plan to remain? Like, do you plan to run in the next election, for example, under the Liberal banner? Like, do you or are you seriously considering your future outside of just cabinet because of this?
I plan to stay a member of the Liberal caucus and to continue play an active role on these issues that are important to me, certainly the environment, climate change, nature, culture as well. I was culture minister twice, 2019 to 21, and until recently, I was climate and identity, culture and nature. I honestly, the dust is still settling since my decision of last week, but I'm definitely there for the coming months.
So you haven't decided beyond that?
Let's talk. Let's have another conversation.
I will definitely invite you. I just wanted to ask one final question, because as you were speaking, I was thinking, like, you know, to be fair to the Prime Minister, he hasn't made a secret of his economic agenda, right? And he's been clear right through the election around the desire to make Canada an energy superpower, but inclusive in that conventional. I can think of the first interview I conducted with him after the swearing-in ceremony, in which I asked about some key environmental policies that Alberta had identified as irritants to development. He indicated even then that he was open to rolling them back because of his desire to see big projects and big things get done. Like, why now is this such a surprise in a way? Like, what did he not disclose that prompted this drastic of a decision?
I mean, I certainly support I think that there's been mixed messages that have been sent over time. I certainly support the idea of making sure that, you know, Canada is an energy superpower. In my view and the view of many of my colleagues, this is a green superpower, like critical minerals, renewable energy, clean technologies, and there are many of these things that are part of the plan right now that I still support.
So is oil and gas.
But this idea that, and I was even willing to entertain a conversation about a pipeline if done properly. One of the things that was difficult with the agreement was the fact that we had made an agreement with Elizabeth May from the Greens to support us in the budget by not including a specific subsidy to oil and gas, and it's explicitly stated in the budget that we wouldn't do that, and then we turn around 2 weeks later and we put it in this agreement with Alberta. That was I was one of the person who was asked to work with Ms. May. Did you help convince her to support the budget? I did. I wasn't the only one, but I did, and I felt that this was not a genuine gesture on our part. She supported us in good faith. I don't think she will support us moving forward. I think that bridge has been burned, and to me that was something that was difficult to accept. I think, yes.
But again, like, I guess I just wonder, like, he has made it explicit from the beginning that he wanted to see oil development. Like, sort of, you know, obviously his track record prior to is why Conservatives doubted those statements, but he has said it on numerous occasions. Like, why, when it was in black and white, did it surprise you in the end?
Well, actually, our platform talked about making Canada an energy superpower, but we weren't specific about projects and things we wanted to do. And I understood why the Prime Minister decided to get rid of the consumer carbon pricing. Like, it was very controversial, politically controversial. I understood when we decided to pause the regulation for electric vehicles. The auto sector is going through a rough time right now, but it was the accumulation, like abandoning the emissions on the cap on emissions from the oil and gas sector. Even if we do pathways, so if we capture that carbon and we store it for oil sands, we'll be worse off from an emissions perspective, from a pollution perspective, if we add another 1 million barrels from a new pipeline, even with carbon capture and storage, than the current situation. We're worse off, according to a study by the Pembina Institute in Alberta. So it's the accumulation of these things that led me to this decision.
Okay, I will leave it on that note. Thanks for your time as always, Mr. Guilbeault. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Dasha.
That's Steven Guilbeault. We're going to talk about this and the political impact with our front bench a little later on. Shankar, Kevin Deagle, James.
So there you go, kids and cubs. Steven Guilbeault here, talking about the reasons for which he left. And as you can see, not dropping bombs, not trying to set things on fire, not trying to create terrible relations, but again, talking about his point of principle and making some very important points during the conversation. One about why staying in caucus and why not just leave or cross the floor, sit as an independent, cross the floor and join the Greens, for example, and making it very clear that even though he disagrees with the Prime Minister on this particular thing, he still believes, all things considered, that the Prime Minister is the best person to lead the country, and that's why he's remaining there. Made a big point about maybe suggesting that the government currently isn't being as honest as it should be or could be with regard to us meeting our 2030 targets, either our ability to or our commitment to them. That one could say is perhaps hip dropping a bomb, but again, it's not done with the flamethrower, right? It's saying that I think we need to reach up. In my assessment, if we're going to be doing this, then there's no way we're going to be reaching 2030, and we should be telling people that. Him feeling very bad about how Elizabeth May was also dealt with there, stating in there that he thinks that that bridge may have been burned, and in fact it is. Elizabeth May is on the record as stating that the Liberals do not have her vote for the confidence vote on the main estimates on the budget when that comes along. And you could see here that if he had decided not to stay in caucus, that there could have been a path for him to go and join the Greens, because he seems to respect Elizabeth May a lot. Elizabeth May is on the record saying that she likes Steven Guilbeault a lot, and that they are good friends, and that she respects him immensely. And given that Elizabeth May wants to step aside, it could even be a situation where Steven Guilbeault could bring his environmental reputation and become the leader of the Green Party, should he want to one day. But still believes in the current government and is remaining with it. But it was nice to see him, to hear him say that he believes that Elizabeth May have been done dirty here, and that he does feel for her. So you can see here, as some kits mentioned here, that he does appear to be a little bit torn, but he is standing for his convictions. And, I wouldn't mind seeing a little more of that, actually, in politics. Some of the people in politics that you end up respecting the most are the people that can stand up and walk away on a point of principle. And Mr. Guilbeault has done this, and has done it in a very classy way, because, again, for someone who is as passionate about the subject, I mean, this man, got himself arrested for the environmental cause. He made a joke about that on Tout le monde en parle as well, So I think somebody asked him about him joining the NDP, and said, or something like that, and said that orange wasn't really his color, or something. He already has some experience wearing orange. Didn't particularly like it. So yeah. The last person I remember, that comes to mind in terms of resigning on principle, was not so much a politician, but was Munir Sheikh, the head of the Statistics Canada at the time that Stephen Harper was trying to replace the census with something else, and stating that the quality of information that we would get and the quality of data would be just as good under the new system he was proposing than what we were doing. And every statistician with their salt around the world knew that that was not true. And Mr. Sheikh had to decide whether or not he was going to stand and remain as the leader of Statistics Canada, with the Prime Minister who not only said he believed that, but also said that he had it on good authority from Mr. Sheikh himself that the data collected under the new system Harper was proposing would be just as good. And that was definitely a lie. So Mr. Sheikh, who was on the record as stating that he had his dream job, had the option of remaining quiet and having what Harper said tinge his reputation, that he would be the type of statistician who would advise a G7 government with one of the most respected or one of the top 3 most respected independent statistical data collection and analysis agencies on the planet, that the data would be equally as good, which would have completely destroyed his reputation among his peers. And Mr. Sheikh decided that rather than choosing to remain on that job and have his personal integrity and reputation sullied in such a way that he would become a laughingstock, that he would just simply stand up and resign from his dream job. So we lost, the nation was poorer for having lost a man of such integrity and diligence in that position. But that's what the situation required. And here we have a situation again where Steven Guilbeault just says, it's like my reputation as an environmentalist would essentially be in tatters, and people would laugh me out of the country if I were to go around and start trying to sell this new concept of a pipeline. So I had to step aside. I just had to, right? You got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you have to be somewhat consistent with yourself. Like I said, that was a good interview. It was a solid interview. Vashi Kapelas pressed when needed to try to get more information, but he seemed to be rather forthright and conscientious and thorough in his answers, and forthcoming even. And I think everybody, journalist and interviewee in that interview, did well and showed off the best of what they had there. And I wanted to make sure that you saw it because, like I said, the whole interview at Tout le monde en parle was very compelling, and it was in French, and so I couldn't use it here to show it to you. So it was I was very excited when I saw that there wasn't one in English as well, and that it was equally compelling. And with answers of equal quality. And I got my wish to be able to show what it is. It's good to get this perspective, right? Of when someone steps aside from cabinet willingly on a point of principle, to hear from that person and start to get a feeling for the color and texture of negotiations as they happen behind the scenes, not only with people external to your party, but people within your party. And again, I'm a big believer on people, whatever side that they pick on a political spectrum, being the first to ask the difficult and the inconvenient and the uncomfortable questions, and holding your own to account before you start pointing fingers elsewhere. And I see that Mr. Guilbeault in this instance has done exactly that. I think other than the fact that we are questioning, and Elizabeth May's question put the question out there, and it is a legitimate question to be asking, considering the circumstances and considering what Steven Guilbeault has said about how Elizabeth May might have been played here. What the value of the Prime Minister's word is to him, because he did make this. He made that commitment in the House of Commons, being asked a question by her, and he answered it. So, again, as I mentioned yesterday, I have a hard time believing that when at the same time he promised Elizabeth May that these certain types of tax credits would not be in the budget, and they're not in the budget, that he wasn't negotiating, that he was not aware that they were in the negotiated MOU with Danielle Smith, which means that they would, if this all goes through, these subsidies would feature in a future budget at some point. So, you got to ask yourself. You got to ask yourself there. All right. Let's see. What else do we have for you, kids and cubs, today? Taking a look what I put in the show description, and I believe it's recent interview with Chief of the AFN, National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak, because again, a good instance based on everything that's been happening over the past few days. As you know, the Prime Minister recently showed up at a special meeting of AFN chiefs and presented his vision of how it is he expected things to progress when it comes to negotiating on this alleged pipeline. And again, we have to make a point that this deal is not only has nuclear, it has AI data centers and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's this whole bigger overall project and not just a pipeline. The pipeline is the portion of it that is getting the most of attention because it's the one that's been a point of contention for the longest time. But it's about more than just the pipeline. But where the pipeline component of it is concerned, there was definitely some consternation within the Indigenous community about how all of this was going to be going down. So very important, very, very important that the Prime Minister go there and speak to the Indigenous community face to face. There have been many other people who have shown up to speak to the community with regard to this. I believe that Mandy Gol Masti may have been one of the people who had been sent to chat to them. I believe the finance minister had gone as well. There were a couple of other people, if I'm not mistaken, on the list. It was one of, how would I put it? One of these types of meetings that had the greatest number of ministers come and speak at one time. So that is a major advancement. I'm just trying to look for the information that I had here, and for some reason it seems to have vanished. However, it would appear that Mr. Hodgson, the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, had originally been on the schedule, on the order, to participate, I believe it is, in a panel discussion. And that was changed at the last minute. He did not sit on that panel eventually. Here we go. I finally found it, what I'm looking for here. So yes, he had been previously scheduled to appear, and he was taken off the list. This is according, I believe, according to the Canadian press. Sorry, I'm having some trouble finding the article here. But he had a meeting with chiefs one-on-one. So he did go. He was just removed from the panel and decided to have a one-on-one, or I guess was decided that it would be better talking one-on-one with chiefs. So this is according to Lisa Mayer here of CBC News. Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson faced a failing grade and cancelled speech at this week's Assembly of First Nations meeting as pushback grows among BC chiefs over the government's new energy agreement with Alberta. Some BC chiefs say the Building Canada Act is failing its first test, accusing the Liberals of dodging critical questions about First Nations consent for a proposed pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast. Quote, his engagement with coastal First Nations and First Nations in British Columbia, if I was going to grade it, it would be an F, BC Regional Chief Terry Teegee of the Assembly of First Nations said. Hodgson had been on the agenda to speak at the Assembly of First Nations Special Chiefs Assembly in Ottawa Thursday, but this morning his name was off the schedule. His office told CBC News, quote, there was a shuffling of the agenda organizers from the federal government specifying it was not Hodgson's office that made the change, and it was not my editorial addition here. It was members of the AFN who made the change as well. The minister is facing heavy criticism from chiefs and his own colleagues for the way he's approaching First Nations around the Memorandum of Understanding the federal government signed with Alberta and how a potential pipeline would impact British Columbia. Instead of addressing the Assembly, Hodgson met with the AFN's BC Regional Caucus on the sidelines. Such meetings are generally private, but BC chiefs and members opened the door to media not long after it began to air their concerns. Quote, what he didn't answer is that what will happen if some First Nations say yes, like Alberta First Nations, for instance, and BC First Nations say no. Will you force the project on us? And he just sort of stepped around and sort of said, well, that's a premature question, said Merle Alexander, member of the Heiltsuk First Nation in BC. That doesn't give us any comfort. Hodgson told the chiefs that he will be, quote, up on the northern coast of BC soon. He reiterated that there isn't a pipeline on the table yet. And with regard to the Prime Minister himself, Mr. Terry Teegee, who we were talking about here, challenged the Prime Minister the day before to come and visit the coastal First Nations, and the Prime Minister did accept that invitation and said that he was eager to do it. Quote, the Indigenous peoples on the coast care a lot about their land, and what we talked about today was a process of how projects will be developed, Hodgson said. They'll be developed in partnership with First Nations, and that's the commitment in the Building Canada Act. Earlier this week, the AFN passed a unanimous resolution calling on the federal government to withdraw from the Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta that sets the conditions for a pipeline to BC's northern coast, including a potential exemption to that coast oil tanker ban. Quote, this MOU is a slap in the face of British Columbia, said TG. They did this agreement without BC in mind. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne defended Hodgson on Thursday. Quote, I think Hodgson has done the work which is important, which respected the Major Projects Office. I think the engagement is that was what needs to be done, Champagne told reporters after he addressed the Assembly later in the day. The nations want to be heard, the nations want to be involved, the nations want to build the future together. But some members of the BC First Nations worry the government could proceed without them even after consultations take place. Quote, you can expect there will be fierce and active litigation. There will be significant civil unrest along the corridor, Alexander said. First Nations in BC, when they say no, they mean it. So you'll see significant and forceful opposition. That happened as well, kits and cubs. I'm not sure how much more got smoothed over by the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources. Came to talk to them one-on-one. But again, Hodgson not impressing me and not impressing them either, unfortunately. It would be nice if they could be more forthcoming, but this has been the problem with this particular government, particularly on this file, is that the legal documents do not state in writing explicitly the same things that the representatives from the government are saying. And that is not confidence building, unfortunately. So yes, I believe, as I mentioned, there was an interview, not on Power and Politics, sorry, it was on Primetime Politics, by CPAC with Michael Serapio. And we had National Chief, I have to get the titles right, Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak of the AFN come and grant an interview. So I will play this so that you may hear that she has to say. Now, this was from 2 days ago here after the Prime Minister's speech to the AFN Assembly. So let's see what the National Chief has to say about this.
Managing partner.
Oops, I'm sorry. I am so sorry, Kits and Cubs. I have that completely wrong. That is not the AFN National Chief. Whoa. I do not know how I made this mistake, Kits and Cubs. So sorry. But still, a really great interview, so I am going to present it. I just thought that it was with Grand Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak, and I was clearly wrong about that. Let me check again, get some cubs, just to make sure I have my information correct, and that's my fault here. Sara Mainville, who's a lawyer and managing partner at JFK Law. She's the one that's making these comments here, but they are still extremely worthwhile, and I apologize once again for suggesting that they were coming from the AFN National Chief.
JFK Law. She is also a former chief of the Couchiching First Nation. Ms. Mainville, good to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
Listen, there seemed to be a lack of understanding amongst the various parties this afternoon because, the Assembly did vote to have that MOU withdrawn. They did so earlier today. Concerned with the tanker ban, the lack of consultation ahead of last week's MOU announcement. But then, hours later, we hear the Prime Minister say that only after a project is presented to the Major Projects Office would consultations take place. So I do wonder, is the criticism getting ahead of the process?
I think it's continuing on a problem that's existed with these types of projects is that the project is propped up as something significant of economic benefit for the larger public, and then First Nations are faced with a sort of checkbox marking exercise called consultation and accommodation that really doesn't allow the project to be changed. Maybe the way the project is guided, like those really important early engagement processes that, have always been said, over the last 16 years, it's always been said, early engagement is the most important piece of doing consultation and accommodation right.
Okay, early engagement, although, I will say the Prime Minister stated that his intention, and the legislation also says this, is that consultation has to happen, and before a project can be designated to be in the national interest, these are the Prime Minister words, that free, prior, and informed consent from Indigenous communities must be provided. So I appreciate that the process might be flawed up until this point, but given the Prime Minister's stated intentions, can any comfort be taken from that?
I think from the forum in the summertime where Prime Minister Carney was in front of the chiefs, and basically the messaging was, trust us, we'll get this right. And I think there's been a couple of missteps that are causing concern. And I think, the chiefs were very proactive as they did the resolution early in the day today, knowing that the Prime Minister was coming, and very clear, like there's a unanimous vote on these important support of the coastal First Nations in BC to say basically no to a pipeline going again through Prince Rupert.
Yeah.
So I think the real disconnect is sort of the process piece. I think one of the hopes was that we were going to do something different here. Some of the leadership, like Premier Wab Kinew, is trying to do the partnership before the project, and so that's sort of the expectation that other leaders would follow suit and do something different as opposed to the same recipe for sort of conflict.
No, I hear what you're saying about the real disconnect is the process, but we have heard, and this wasn't from the Prime Minister today, but we have heard his ministers say that the economic challenge from Donald Trump is so immediate, so dire, that this government is trying to move quickly with big projects. Is there any way to have consultation while also expediting a process to get projects off the ground and built?
Yeah, I think that these Indigenous-led projects are probably the way forward, and so there's a number of proposals from the First Nations themselves to make some of these projects, and he did mention a few of them in his speech. To be fair to the Prime Minister, he did mention a few of them that sort of are positively like Indigenous-led projects with Indigenous ownership in those projects. So I think the notion of another pipeline being in the mix, I think, is sort of against, two of the three premises that, First Nations want another pipeline. And the second one is that this will actually be, helping more of a clean economy kind of goalpost. I think it doesn't mean either of those things.
Mm-hmm. Now, we did hear the Prime Minister say that there's going to be a meeting of the First Ministers that should take place early in the new year, and that meeting itself is going to be led by an agenda set by First Nations. How helpful do you think that meeting is actually going to be?
I think it's a good start. I think it's a doorway to bring more opportunities for the actual planning stages of some of these bigger projects, to actually have a real conversation at that level. I think is a good approach. Listening to the Prime Minister speak, I think that there are some pretty major concerns on the investment side of things, around like introducing a new water legislation as opposed to reintroducing the existing water legislation that was tabled under the Trudeau government, which is, I think, more meeting what First Nations want to see as far as water legislation and the exercise of First Nation jurisdiction in regarding water. So those are. I think that there's some concerns, and I think that there's a bit of frustration because the Prime Minister Carney is not necessarily listening to some of the First Nation proposals that have gone forward regarding the budget discussions and things of that nature, and it seems like we're getting sort of a watered down version of some of those proposals, including the water legislation. And then there's also Indian Act reform with the S2 legislation that is again watered down, like it's not the fuller proposal that First Nations wanted in that legislation. So
it's not necessarily just the major projects, but how this government moves forward with other priorities as well.
Yeah, I think it's this idea that there's a bit of budget constraints. I think Prime Minister Carney, I think, was right to kind of mention the things that in their budget that they're safeguarding as far as some First Nation priorities, including getting rid of the boil water advisories and things of that nature. But it seems to be definitely there's going to be some financial impacts to First Nations because of these budget constraints that are rolling out. And again, the crisis created by the Trump administration is also something that is impacting First Nations, and they also want to be part of the discussion and being part of the decision making around what are the major projects that go forward.
Mm-hmm. Listen, Sarah, I've only got a minute left, but I do want to ask you, if you were to give any advice to this government of how to move forward, what would that be?
I think concentrating on those First Nation-led projects and really giving good energy to making them happen in a real robust way for First Nations economic benefits will really be I think setting a new standard, because I think with those First Nation-led projects you get to that arena of free, prior, and informed consent and set that standard for those more troublesome projects in the future.
Sara Mainville, really appreciate the time and the insight. Thank you for this.
Miigwech, thank you.
So as you see, Kids and Cubs, a very, very interesting interview there, where a lot of the things I've done yesterday's show, the idea of establishing partnerships before you start working on projects, show Indigenous people that you're interested in them for them, not only not only the yeses they can give you on your own projects. And when it comes time for a project to come along, then you have those built relationships. The concept about early engagement being the most important part of consultation. Whereas from the government's perspective or the Prime Minister's perspective, they're looking at early engagement more as things that the nation of Canada is negotiating with itself before it goes out to negotiate with other nations, which are the First Nations. Mention her talking about the water bill I think it was Bill C-61 that had been originally introduced during the time of the Trudeau government, but didn't have time to go through the entire legislation. The community would like that bill to be brought back as it was written. It seems that the government has pledged to bring it back, but it seems, according here to Sara Mainville, that the legislation will be somewhat watered down from the original proposal. Not sure why that would be necessary, and that's causing some concerns. And then the other thing is that she mentioned was Bill S2, and I had to go take a look on the APTN website to find out a bit more about that. But that's a bill that originates in the Senate, and it had something to do with recognition of title and status, in that there seems to have been a rule that disenfranchised um, Indigenous people as being Indigenous after 2 generations, depending on when and where people were born and that type of thing. So according to Karen Pugliese here, the Senate has passed a significant set of amendments to Bill S2 at the report stage, moving Canada one step closer to ending the controversial second-generation cutoff under the Indian Act. The amendments introduced by Senator Paul Prosper expand the scope of the bill beyond its original intent. Both Prosper and Indigenous Service Canada Minister Mandy Golmasti are expected to speak at the Assembly of First Nations Special Assembly in Ottawa on the future of the bill. They have done this already, and the debate over consultation and Indigenous legal identity will continue. Longtime rights advocate Sharon McIver, who took the government to court over the issue and won an earlier case, will also join the panel, as will lawyer Drew Lafond of MLT Aikens and ISC Assistant Deputy Minister Catherine Lapp. ISC is into Indigenous Services. And oh my God, I'm forgetting. Oh my God, Indigenous Services Canada. Sorry, I'm forgetting my acronyms today. That's terrible. So yes, the Deputy Minister of Indigenous Services Canada, Catherine Lapp. The FN has already passed a number of resolutions calling on the government to end the second-generation cutoff, most recently last year. Originally, S2 was written to comply with a BC court ruling. In its original form, it restored status to between 3,000 to 6,000 people who lost status through old enfranchisement rules. The amendments were crafted after weeks of hearings at the Senate Standing Committee on Indigenous People, where 57 witnesses testified. In addition to restoring status to descendants of those enfranchised under historic provisions, such as people who gave up status to vote or to keep their children out of residential schools, the amended bill would now eliminate the second-generation cutoff entirely. The cutoff means some people with what is known as 6-2 status under the Indian Act cannot pass status to their children unless they partner with another status person. Under the proposed changes, that limitation would end. The amendments would also eliminate the unknown paternity rule, which denies children of status mothers their rights if their father's is unnamed on birth records. Mi'kmaq Senator Brian Francis, who voted in favor of the amendment, said after years of waiting, he did not want to lose an opportunity to finally address discrimination in the Act. Quote, I believe that Minister Mandy Golmasti is genuine. That has never been a question, he said during debate. However, a political promise is not legally binding. There is no guarantee that the federal government, with the system structures and processes, will follow through, even if we wanted to trust her. We can't ignore that. Federal minority governments tend to have shorter lifespans. Golmasti, who asked Senator Michelle Odette to introduce Bill S2 in the Senate, has warned the amendments go too far. She said they require more time and deeper consultation with First Nations. Senator Pierre Moreau, who works within the government's representative's office in the Senate, defended that position. Quote, while I hear senators saying our Constitution says there shouldn't be any discrimination, and I agree, and we all agree, and we agree the Indian Act is discriminatory, I refer to a shameful colonial past in my statement. I think these are very strong words, but a senator's oath to respect the Constitution applies to all aspects of the Constitution, and especially Section 35, and a duty to consult. Prosper pushed back. We can't allow consultation to be weaponized this way, he said. Senator Moreau tells us to reject the report on the basis of our constitutional obligations around consultation, but what of our obligations to uphold the Charter? What of our obligations under the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act? The original version of Bill S2 was tabled to bring Canada into compliance with a ruling in Nicholas v. Canada, a BC Supreme Court case that found parts of the Indian Act unjustly excluded certain descendants of enfranchised individuals. That version would have restored status to a narrow group of 3,000 to 5,000 people, but the Senate's amended version could restore status to many more. The bill must still pass the third reading, and the Senate then move to the House of Commons, where it faces another 3 readings at a committee review. At each stage, the amendments could still be reversed. So there you have it, kits and cubs. Little piece of what's going on. Legislation introduced in the Senate. That's why it's a Bill S2 and not Bill C2, because if it was in the Commons, it would start with a C. A little bit of civics trivia there. Bills that start with S are bills that were introduced first in the Senate, and bills that start with C first introduced in the House of Commons. So there you go, kits and cubs. One final last little bit that I wanted to mention to you, because I talked about Minister Miller, newly appointed Minister Miller, or reappointed Minister Miller, appointed to the Minister of Cultural Identity, and how this opened a door for the separatists in Quebec, or the indépendantistes or autonomists in Quebec, with Premier Frankie Legs jumping all on that and saying, "Oh my God, it was like a disgusting comment," and the minister should be having been ashamed for having stated it. Now the minister said that he was tired of the polarization of the debate on the subject of whether or not the French language was receding within the province of Quebec. As a francophone myself, I can tell you that I too am tired of the polarized debate about it. You either get on with preserving the French language or you don't, but you do not have to do things like restrict people's access to post-secondary education in English in order to do that. So I don't believe that you need to go into the ethnocultural bandwagon and make someone else pay and other to promote, defend, or preserve the French language. Now, this would have been a gift for the Parti Québecois, who you think would have adopted the same type of discourse that the leader of the CAQ, François Legault, stated. "Oh my God, you attacked us. How can you say that? How can you be so insensitive? I will never stop fighting for the promotion of the French language." But Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon decided to go another way and scored an own goal on himself, because it would appear that when Mark Miller was named, but probably before he made this comment, there were several spokespersons from the cultural community in Quebec that were very happy at Mark Miller's appointment. And this did not sit very well with Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. And instead of chastising the minister for the comments, he decided to chastise spokespeople from Quebec's cultural communities for having expressed pleasure at the appointment of Mark Miller as Federal Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. So, according to the Canadian press here, spokesperson for the cultural community lack loyalty to Quebec, according to Parti Québecois leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. On Tuesday, representatives from several cultural associations welcomed Mark Miller's appointment as Federal Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture in an article published by Radio-Canada. This stung Saint-Pierre Plamondon, who declared on social media, quote, "The intellectual vacuity and sycophancy of a substantial part of Quebec's cultural community are frankly embarrassing. I am ashamed." At a news briefing at the National Assembly on Wednesday, the PQ leader defended himself by saying he felt, quote, "really hurt by the behavior of certain people." After all, Miller, a former immigration minister in the Trudeau government, is, quote, "one of the architects of our linguistic decline," he said, quote, "with that track record, can we really say to Mark Miller, we're so happy to be working with you, what a great minister and all that? There are limits to being disloyal to Quebec by ignoring all the damage that has been done," rallied Saint-Pierre Plamondon. Quote, "At some point, we have the right to expect spokespersons from Quebec's cultural community to be loyal to Quebec and the French-speaking world." And right here, kits and cubs, you have a perfect example of what I said about Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon being very similar to Pierre Poilievre in many ways, and this is how he can hurt himself. Once again, the loyalty test, and blaming all the problems of a nation on one man. Mark Miller was indeed the Minister of Canadian heritage. I believe at the time they could Canadian heritage and not uh, cultural identity. At I believe that's a new name that's been put on it. But I'm taking a look here. He was looking at his thing here. Minister responsible for official languages, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, Minister of Indigenous Relations, Minister of Indigenous Services. Yeah, okay. So yeah, he was never a Minister of Heritage before. So I am not sure what accusation Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is making of Mark Miller of having personally participated in the decline of the French language or personally having promoted the decline of the French language in the province of Quebec. It seems that he's just saying things. So yes, Mark Miller was appointed. He was a member of the government. My thesis as leader of the Parti Québecois is that the government of Canada will always be detrimental to Quebec society because even if they don't intend to be mean, they just can't, or discriminatory or supremacist or anything of the kind. They just can't help themselves. It's in their DNA. They are a lost cause. There's no point in keeping on talking to them. We will never be allowed to be who we truly are as long as we are under their roof, and we need to do something ourselves. That's his sort of general discourse, is that we're not evil or whatnot, but we're a lost cause. But here he's getting into there, right? Miller, former immigration, he's blaming Miller in terms of the former as a former immigration minister as being one of the architects of the linguistic decline. But Mr. Miller made it very clear that when he was minister, he doubled the number of French-speaking immigrants to Canada during his time. Among the groups that welcomed Miller's appointment were the Société des auteurs de radio, télévision et cinéma, SARTEC, which is the Society of radio, television, and cinema authors, or probably writers. The Association Québécoise de la Production Médiatique, the Quebec Association of Media Production, and the Association Nationale des Éditeurs de Livres, the National Association of Book Editors. SARTEC's executive director, Laurent Dubois, said, for example, that he found it reassuring to have someone of this stature to make the voice of artists heard. Hélène Messier, president and CEO of the Quebec Association of Media Producers, said that Miller, quote, will be a great advocate and that she has no doubt about his commitment to Quebec culture. Plamondon's attacks are, quote, unwarranted, his political opponents said Wednesday. It is unwarranted of a party leader to say that there's an intellectual void in Quebec's cultural milieu, said André Fortin, parliamentary leader of the Liberal Party, at a press briefing. It is unacceptable. Mr. Saint-Pierre Plamondon must apologize. It makes no sense to say that, agreed Quebec Solidaire spokesperson Sol Zanetti. This is a future premier expressing his contempt for Quebec's cultural class, for the people who bring culture to life in an absolutely condescending manner, he added. For their part, Premier François Legault and his Minister of Culture, Mathieu Lacombe, refused to criticize Saint-Pierre Plamondon's comments. The day before, Legault lambasted Miller, accusing the new federal minister of talking nonsense about French in Quebec. On Tuesday morning, his word he said in French, c'est des conneries, so nonsense, or inanities, or stupidities. On Tuesday morning, Miller said he was tired of the debate on the decline of French, which he felt was too politicized. As a Quebecer, I'm pretty fed up with this debate, which is generally about identity and is electioneering, he said. From 2022 to 2024, the percentage of Francophones in Montreal fell from 48% to 43%, and now Mark Miller, the new federal minister of culture, says he's tired of the debate on the decline of French. What a shame, fumed Legault. So there you go. That's the tempest in the teapot. But Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon pulling a Pierre Poilievre, attacking people within his own team for not being loyal enough because they dared have something nice to say about a federalist who was appointed to a ministerial position. There you go. Not sure why this gentleman decided to score a goal on himself. during that period, but he did. Uh, Mark Miller was just waiting there that he could take a swing at him, but he decided to attack the cultural communities because he was feeling personally hurt by this. Again, sir, if you feel personally hurt that other people are doing basic diplomatic niceties about being happy that someone is appointed, first of all, Mark Miller's appointment is not about you or your feelings. So thank you so much for inserting yourself into the center of this announcement like it's about you. I don't know. I hear Carly Simon in my head now all of a sudden. You're so vain. You probably think this appointment's about you. You're so vain. The appointment's not about you. You had no reason to get all emotional. You had no reason to get your underwear all in a bunch and have it right up. You had absolutely no reason to be attacking Quebec's cultural communities. The fact that you took a shot there rather than at the federal Liberals themselves indicates a terrible lack of strategy, judgment, and discernment, and sends to me the message that perhaps you are not the government in waiting that everybody thought that you might be. And despite the fact that, unlike Pierre, you are able to show some actual personality from time to time and be somewhat charismatic, you still have the same essential problems. A consistently negative discourse that constantly puts your opponent down, does not recognize any value or worth in the opponent whatsoever, and is prepared to attack your own kind and eat your own in order to get ahead. Yeah, not great. But more power to you if you think that that's the way that you're going to get yourself to a majority, sir. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you share a few words of your own, telling everybody why it is that our content has resonated with you. It really means the world to us. So thank you, because we are not able to buy that type of advertising in any way, shape, or form. So thank you. It goes a long way. Kits and cubs, if you would like us to help you because you are busy and on the go and you want to remain informed, but sometimes you need to go out and take on the day, well, don't worry. Thanks to the generous help and support of the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page, we can help you. If you just scan this QR code, it will bring you to our pod page. That's podpage.com/the-true-northeagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go on there and press on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, it comes directly to your podcast feed. You just upload us, or download us, I should say, and then upload yourself into your life. And you can take on the day and remain informed at the same time. Kits and cubs, if you would like to help us, well, hey, we can definitely use your help. And one of the ways you can do that is by taking your lovely self to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. That QR code that just appeared up top will bring you right there. And if you go there, we have 3 buttons for you. Kits, Cassie, and Elaine will be supervising and chaperoning, but don't worry, they're very permissive, and you can smash with our buttons and just downright get freaky with them. Like, share, and subscribe. Give them some clicks. It makes us really happy when you do, and it helps us with the algorithm. So thank you for your support, particularly over the past few weeks as our numbers have been growing slowly but steadily. We appreciate your support, kids and cubs. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, we do incur some financial costs to bring this show to you, and we would be very grateful for your support, kids and cubs. And a big thank you to the kids and cubs who today have made a couple of donations via the show's super chat function. Thank you so much for your generous donations. It means the world to us. We were hoping to pick up 20 before the end of the show. Apparently, Mr. Grizzly had put a fundraising goal, but did not tell me, so I could not promote it throughout. But he has promised an AMA session with a call-in show. Not sure what an AMA session is. I'd have to ask him. But yeah, I guess before our time is up, if you would like to have a call-in show, then all you need to do is make a little donation before I go off air, and there we go. You can, and we will try to do that for you. I'm sorry I did not see the thing, and so I could have promoted it earlier to give you more time. But like I said, I still have the rest of the the extra to go through, and a little bit of Canadians who make us proud, maybe. So there is time if you would like that to happen, to get your donation in under the wire. But if you would like to help us in other ways, we also have our coffee page where you can find the Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund kits and cubs. Now, if you scan this QR code that's going to appear right about now, boom, that will bring you right there. Coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And you can drop a couple of loonies and toonies in the Emergency Hydration Fund, also known as our tip jar. And that way you will be doing your bit to keep your favorite beaver and your favorite bear moist. Because a moist beaver is a happy beaver. And yes, a moist bear is also a happy bear. It's true. We have the scientific data to prove it. So, kits and cubs, if you would like to help us, we would be very grateful. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, kits and cubs, ooh, somebody scanned the QR code. Yay! Thank you so much, whoever did. Really appreciate that. Kits and cubs, I got myself a little happy, and I threw myself there. I got excited. Woo! Kits and cubs, if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and there you can send us a direct bank transfer. So you avoid the USCE tech bros, the broligarchy, and you don't give them a share of your donation. In fact, when your donation goes through our email address instead of our coffee page, 100% of your donation comes to us. So that means your donation goes further. So kits and cubs, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can send that donation. And if you are not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that mean the most to us. And we love to hear from you. So please, please, please write to us. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, or give us some suggestions for some interviews, some conversations. Who would you like to see on the show? We do our best to reach out. We're not able to get everyone, but we do try. So let us know what you would like to see. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much for taking the time. It does mean the world to us. And if you would like to write to us through other ways, via our socials, for example, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge and on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver, our original home on Facebook, also here on the YouTube page in the comment section down below. Leave us something. We also have an Instagram and the Damn Fam Discord if you want to keep the conversation going afterwards. And I'm sure the Kits and Cubs will put those various links there, because those are fan initiated platforms. So hopefully you will find like-minded people there, and you'll be able to keep the conversation going. There you go. So lots of ways to interact. We do read everything, but we're not able to get back to everyone, of course. But all of your contributions, whether financial or in word, get put back into the show to make it better. And we thank you for taking the time. It makes us very happy, and it means a lot to us that you take the time to write to us, because there's lots of things you could be doing with your time, and that you spare a moment or two for us beyond the show to communicate with us. It really makes our hearts happy. So thank you so much for all that you do for us. We would be nothing without you. So we are very grateful, and we recognize your valuable contributions to the Damn Fam. All right, kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Remember, we have petition, House of Commons petition E6821, which seeks to encourage our parliamentarians to table some legislation that would make it such that Canadian media should be for Canadians, by Canadians, and serving the best interests of Canadians. And in order to do that, well, we do need your enthusiastic signatures on this petition. So please go visit it. I just put the link in the chat. We're at 7,179 signatures. So only a few more signatures since yesterday. Let's see if we can boost that number up. And please share the petition with people in your circle as well and ask them to sign it. It really is important. And finally, kids and cubs, if you happen to be living on Prince Edward Island, today is the last day of early voting in the by-election for District 2 Georgetown Ponal. Liberal Party of PEI leader Robert Mitchell is running to try to secure a seat in the legislature. And today from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the island, there will be early voting, and the actual voting day will be December 8th. So 2 more days to get your votes in. And if you're voting by mail or any other way, make sure that you get your vote in early enough so that it can arrive on time and be counted. Okay, I believe that's all I've got for you on that. So we are moving to some words of wisdom, kids and cubs. And my word of wisdom for you is to check out Mr. Grizzly's wonderful Grizzly Growl series this week about what's going on at Goodenow Center in Saskatchewan. It will make your hair curl and your hair on your arms stand up. So give it, Mr. Grizzly is doing some good work on this. So give it a chance. It's definitely worth your time. And other words of wisdom, if you have the opportunity, kids and cubs, just tell someone you care about that you love them, especially if there's someone they're not close to you, in your neighborhood or whatnot. Pick up the phone or send a little message. Let someone you care about know that they're on your mind and that you had lovely thoughts of them and just wanted them to know. All right, kids and cubs. It can be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, can I please have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Oh, I hear you. And that was very beautifully done, damn fam. So I must serve. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs. A little bit of news about Canadians who make us proud. And this comes to us courtesy of Kitlinda, who notes that this is from the Department of National Defense, actually, December 2nd, this was released. On November 24th, 2025, the International Maritime Organization recognized members of the 103 Search and Rescue Squadron with a Certificate of Commendation for Exceptional Bravery at Sea at IMO headquarters in London, United Kingdom, for rescuing the crew from a disabled cargo vessel near Lake Harbor, Newfoundland on February 15th, 2025. The queue of Rescue 901 being recognized included Aircraft Commander Captain Matthew Cox, First Officer Major Pete Wright, Flight Engineer Master Corporal Todd Osmond, and Search and Rescue Technicians Warrant Officer Gregory Hudson, Sergeant Sebastian Godet, Master Corporal Gary Normore, and Sergeant Alain Gogan, who showed remarkable resolve, courage, and tenacity during the rescue. These qualities, a hallmark of Canadian Armed Forces SAR crews, enable the Canadian Armed Forces to work with partners to deliver 24/7 aeronautical SAR services across Canada, as SAR is search and rescue. During this mission, a CH-149 Cormorant helicopter from 103 Search and Rescue Squadron was deployed to assist the disabled cargo vessel MSC Baltic III, which had 20 crew members aboard, including 4 injured personnel. Extreme weather conditions posed a significant challenge to the operation, with waves over 5 meters tall and winds stronger than 75 kilometers per hour. As R901 began hoist operations, it was discovered that the upper deck of the vessel was completely iced over and that the vessel was rapidly deteriorating. R901 assessed that due to the vessel's rapid deterioration, it was necessary to extract all crew members as soon as possible. Over the next 60 minutes, R901 systematically hoisted all crew members safely and effectively while battling the dangerous weather conditions. Despite severe weather, hazardous sea conditions, and a rapidly deteriorating vessel, the R901 crew executed a challenging SAR operation during a once-in-a-lifetime search and rescue event. The success of this mission was a direct result of exceptional teamwork, clear communication, and adaptability under extreme conditions. And according to Lieutenant General Steven Boivin, commander of the Canadian Joint Operations Command, quote, "I am proud of the accomplishments of Rescue 901 from 103 Search and Rescue Squadron. The team displayed tremendous courage, tenacity, and technical expertise during this rescue, embodying the very best of who we are as Canadian Armed Forces members. The international recognition of our search and rescue team highlights the excellence and precision that our search and rescue operations demand to save lives under the most challenging circumstances." Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, those who serve us, making us proud, showing extreme bravery and tenacity in a very difficult situation, and saving lives in the process. So thank you, Kitland M, for suggesting that to us, for Canadians who make us proud, because they surely do. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I have for you today. Amour et bisous. I am gone. If Mr. Grizzly does something this evening, I might pop in to join with him. I'm not sure if he's going to do a weekly wrap-up like he usually does, or whether or not there is a part 5 in his story, his Daily Growl. So I will try to consult with him and figure out which one it is, because if it's his Daily Growl, I certainly want to show up to intervene in that. But if it's just a weekly roundup, I might pop in for a little bit and say hello and have a little bonus Damn Fam time. But either way, you're probably going to get some Grizzly tonight anyway. So, and that's always a good thing. All right. And remember, Pupcast coming up December 20th. So thank you so much, kids and cubs, for your time and your attention today. As I said before, amour et bisous. And I am off. And we'll see you on Monday, if I don't see you a little later this evening. And with that, I am gone.